Caitlin Clark faced her biggest challenge yet. Just imagine, you've just played 45 intense minutes, pushing your team to the limit in a battle that went into overtime. Then, barely catching your breath, you find yourself face-to-face with the reigning champs, the Las Vegas Aces, led by the unstoppable Aja Wilson. That's the scenario Caitlin Clark found herself in last night. The question on everyone's mind was, would Clark's magic hold up against fatigue? Or would the Aces, with Wilson chasing a historic record, be too much for an exhausted Fever? It was a night of broken records, challenged expectations, and proof that even the biggest stars have moments of vulnerability. But don't be fooled, folks. What happened last night is just the beginning of a playoff race that promises to be breathtaking. So, hit that subscribe button and let's start by talking about the rookie. In the last game, we saw a Clark we're not used to seeing. That wizard of assists and queen of three-pointers looked human again. The numbers don't lie, folks. Clark finished the night with 16 points and 6 assists. At first glance, it doesn't seem so bad, right? But let's dive a little deeper. She played fewer minutes than usual, and the signs of fatigue were evident. Just imagine, she was coming off a game where she was on the court for a full 45 minutes. It's like running a marathon and then trying to win a 100-meter dash the next day. Not easy. Now brace yourselves for some numbers that might sting a little. Her field goal percentage, 6 of 22. That's just 27.3%. On three-pointers, which are usually her specialty, 1 of 10. That's right, 10%. But before anyone starts questioning the rookie's talent, let's remember one thing. Even the greatest athletes have bad days. Michael Jordan had his bad games. LeBron James, too. What does this show us? That Caitlin Clark, despite all her phenomenal talent, is also human. And you know what's even more incredible? Even on a day clearly below her standard, she still managed to contribute 16 points and 6 assists. How many players could do that on a bad day? This performance makes us think, are we putting too many expectations on this young star? Or was this game just a small stumble on the path of a historic season? One thing's for sure. How Clark bounces back from this game will tell us a lot about her mentality and her ability to overcome adversity. And let's face it, overcoming challenges is what separates good players from legends of the sport. Now let's dive into what really happened on the court last night. Because this game was about so much more than just Caitlin Clark's numbers. The Las Vegas Aces came to Indianapolis with a clear mission: maintain their elite position in the league and, of course, give Aja Wilson a chance to make history. On the other side, we had the Indiana Fever, trying to prove they can dance with the big dogs, even with their star clearly not at her best. The final score, 86-75 for the Aces. But don't be fooled, this game was much more competitive than the score suggests. From the start, it was clear the Aces came prepared. They opened up a lead in the first half, going into halftime with a comfortable advantage. But the Fever wasn't about to roll over. In the third quarter, we saw a resurgent Fever, led by a red-hot Kelsey Mitchell. They managed to cut the deficit to just 1 point, 48-49. That's when everyone in the arena thought, are we about to witness an epic comeback? But the Aces aren't the reigning champs for nothing. They quickly responded with a barrage of three-pointers, courtesy of Kelsey Plum and Alysha Clark. It was as if they were saying, not today, Fever, not today. And speaking of Alysha Clark, what a game she had. 14 points with an insane 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. She was crucial in stretching the Fever's defense and creating space. But the real star of the night, without a doubt, Aja Wilson. Get this, 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 blocks. It's like she was playing on another level. And there's more. She made history in this game, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. For the Fever, besides the already mentioned Mitchell, we had Clark with her 16 points and 6 assists, and Aaliyah Boston showing presence in the paint with 10 rebounds, even though she struggled to score. In the end, the experience and depth of the Aces' bench spoke louder, but the Fever showed they've got heart and that, even on a tough day for their star, they can give any team in the league a run for their money. Now, my friends, let's talk about a moment that entered the WNBA history books. Remember I mentioned Aja Wilson did something special last night? With 26.4 seconds left in the second quarter, Aja Wilson made a 2-point basket that looked like a routine play to anyone watching. But that basket, making her the new record holder for points in a single season in WNBA history. Let that sink in for a second. Aja Wilson now holds the record for most points scored in a single season. She surpassed Jewel Lloyd, who had set the record of 939 points last season. And you know what's even more impressive? Wilson did it in just 35 games, while Lloyd needed 38. Think about it. We're talking about an absurd average of 27.3 points per game. That's not just good, it's dominant. And it doesn't stop there. Wilson isn't just a scoring machine. She's averaging 2.7 blocks and 11.9 rebounds per game. It's like she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The most incredible thing is that Wilson makes it look easy. She's not just breaking records, but doing it while leading her team to crucial victories. The Aces, after a tough post-Olympic break period where they went 1-4, have bounced back impressively. Now, with 5 wins in their last 7 games, they're 22-13 and occupy the 4th seed in the playoffs. And you know what's crazier? Wilson doesn't even seem to be at her peak yet. At just 27 years old, she already has 2 WNBA MVP titles under her belt and is making a strong case for a third. She's redefining what it means to be dominant in the WNBA. Now, folks, let's take a look at what was going through Caitlin Clark's mind after this challenging game. As always, our favorite rookie didn't shy away from the microphones, even after a tough night. In the post-game interview, Clark showed why she's not just a talented player, but also a leader in the making. Without beating around the bush or making excuses, she got straight to the point. We need to get better. Those 4 words might seem simple, but they carry a huge weight. It's the kind of self-criticism we see from seasoned veterans, not rookies in their first season. Clark isn't just acknowledging the loss, she's taking responsibility for the team's performance. But she didn't stop there. Clark immediately shifted focus to the future, mentioning the next game. And guess what? It's against the Aces again. That's right. 1 game barely finished and she's already mentally prepared for the next challenge. Let's be honest, the next matchup against the Aces is more than just a regular season game. It's a chance for redemption for Clark. It's an opportunity for the Fever to show they can compete with the best teams in the league. The big question is, how will Clark and the Fever adjust? They've seen what the Aces are capable of. They've seen Aja Wilson at her best. Now, it's time to go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan. Will we see a more rested Clark ready for an explosive performance? Will the Fever find a way to contain Wilson? Or will the Aces prove once again why they're the reigning champs? One thing's for sure. Clark isn't going into this next game settling for anything less than a win. And that, my friends, is what makes basketball so exciting. Now, folks, let's talk about the bigger picture, because while each game is a battle, the real goal is the war, the WNBA playoffs. So, how does this loss affect the Indiana Fever's chances? First, let's recap. The Fever currently has a 17-16 record. That puts them in an interesting position. They're not at the top of the standings, but they're not desperate either. They're right in the middle of the fight, which makes every game from here on out absolutely crucial. With this loss to the Aces, the Fever missed a golden opportunity to distance themselves a bit more from the teams right behind them in the standings. But don't panic yet. Fever fans, the situation is far from catastrophic. The Fever is safely in the 7th playoff spot right now. That's good news and bad news at the same time. The good news, they're in the playoffs if the season ended today. The bad news, they'd face a higher-seeded team in the first round, which would make the path to the title much more challenging. And here's the kicker. The Fever still has a realistic chance of moving up in the standings. With a few games left in the regular season, including another showdown against the Aces, each win could mean the difference between facing an easier or tougher opponent in the playoffs. But let's be honest, the road won't be easy. The Fever has tough games ahead, including matchups against teams that are also fighting for playoff positions. Every game will be like a playoff preview from here on out, and you know what's most exciting. Caitlin Clark's performance will be crucial in this final stretch. If she can bounce back from this tough game and return to her usual level of play, the Fever might surprise a lot of people. So, Fever fans, it's time to cross your fingers, do your lucky dances, or whatever you do to bring your team luck. Because every shot, every rebound, every assist could be the difference between moving up or down in the standings. And for the neutral fans, get ready for one of the most exciting playoff races in recent WNBA history. Because with teams like the Fever fighting to improve their position, every night promises to be full of drama and action. So, WNBA fans, get ready. The next few weeks promise to be some of the most exciting in the league's recent history. Who's going to shine under pressure? Who's going to stumble at the finish line? And who's going to emerge as the true force to be reckoned with in the playoffs? One thing's for sure, you won't want to blink because every second counts in this electrifying final stretch. If you've made it this far, you're clearly a dedicated fan of women's basketball, and we love that. So, how about sharing your thoughts in the comments? Do you think Caitlin Clark will bounce back in the next game against the Aces? Will A'ja Wilson keep breaking records? Who are your favorites to go all the way? Leave your prediction in the comments. And if you enjoyed this content and want to stay on top of all the WNBA action, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. That way, you won't miss any analysis, game recaps, or epic moments from the best women's basketball league in the world. See you soon.